This next episode of Trivia in Chief is about a 32nd president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, our longest-serving president. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was born January 30th, 1882 in Hyde Park, New York. He was fifth cousins with Teddy Roosevelt. Franklin was homeschooled until he was 14, before he attended a prep school in Massachusetts. In 1900, Franklin entered Harvard. He studied law, but he was not considered an exceptional student. After graduating from Harvard, he married Eleanor Roosevelt, the niece of Teddy Roosevelt and Franklin's fifth cousin once removed. Franklin admired his presidential cousin and decided to follow his example. Unlike Teddy, Franklin became a member of the Democratic Party. He was elected to the New York Senate in 1910, and he became known for resisting Tammany Hall. He became Assistant Secretary of the Navy in 1913. In 1920, he was chosen as the running mate for presidential candidate James M. Cox. Their campaign focused on the U.S. joining the League of Nations, which had been established in the Treaty of Versailles. Ultimately, Republican Warren G. Harding won the election. In 1921, while on vacation in New Brunswick, Canada, Roosevelt contracted polio. He was almost completely paralyzed, and Roosevelt always worked towards using his legs again. Roosevelt wanted to step out of public life, but Eleanor convinced him to continue his political career. When Roosevelt recovered, Eleanor spoke on his behalf. Roosevelt returned to public life at the 1924 Democratic National Convention, when he nominated Alfred E. Smith for president. Even though his need for a wheelchair was not a secret, it was not widely talked about until after his death. In 1928, Smith convinced Roosevelt to run for governor of New York. After winning the election, he focused on tax relief for farmers as the Great Depression began. He was re-elected in 1930. His efforts in helping a Great Depression in New York earned him national attention. He was nominated to run in the 1932 presidential election and defeated incumbent Herbert Hoover. By the time Roosevelt entered office, 13 million Americans were unemployed. During his first 100 days, Roosevelt helped pass relief legislation, and he also began his famous fireside chats to reach as many Americans as possible. He also established several federal agencies to provide employment as part of his New Deal. These included the Works Progress Administration, the Civilian Conservation Corps, and the Tennessee Valley Authority. During his first term, he also created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, and signed the Social Security Act into law. Roosevelt was re-elected in 1936 to a second term. In his second term, he faced his largest controversy when he tried to add extra seats to the U.S. Supreme Court. When World War II began in Europe in 1939, Roosevelt worked to maintain American neutrality, while still supplying Britain and France with weapons. He ran again for a third term in 1940, and defeated Wendell Willkie by almost 5 million votes. This makes Roosevelt our only president elected to more than 2 terms. With the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt famously said,
"Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific."
Roosevelt led us through World War II, becoming even more popular than before. In 1944, he was elected to a historic 4th term. His health began to fail, and on April 12, 1945, while on vacation in Warm Springs, Georgia, Roosevelt passed away. Vice President Harry S. Truman was soon sworn in as president. Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected to 4 terms, more than any other president. Under 1951's 22nd Amendment, no president can serve more than 2 terms, so it is unlikely that any president will serve longer than Roosevelt. The next president was Harry S. Truman. Thank you.